What's up everybody, I'm back with another monthly recap video, and this is everything I watched in August. After some underwhelming entries last month, August was a definite step up in quality, and there's a lot of things I'm excited to talk about. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, and check out my channel for more content like this. Alright, now let's get into it. To start this month, I watched The Gray Man. I didn't have high expectations for this movie at all after what the Russo brothers did with Cherry, but this was just so boring. If this movie came out 10 years ago, it would probably be a lot better received, but for 2022, this is extremely derivative because it's not anything new. It feels like a watered-down Mission Impossible without the charming lead, impressive stunt work, and stunning cinematography. The Gray Man has a corny-ass script with pretty awful camera work at times, especially those ridiculous drone shots. Chris Evans is at least enjoyable to watch, but it's not enough to save this movie, and it's definitely not something I'm ever going to watch again, so I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Next, I went on a little weekend trip to northern Michigan where I rewatched Juno and Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I love both of these movies a lot. Elliot Page is great in Juno, and the Soggy Bottom Boys are always a delight. I'll give both of these a 9 out of 10. Next, I rewatched Jojo Rabbit with my dad because he had never seen it. This is my first time watching it since I saw it back in theaters in 2019, and I still really loved it. After the mess that was Thor Love and Thunder, this was a good reminder of Taika Waititi's potential. Jojo Rabbit is a film with a lot of heart, and it's pretty hilarious too. It's probably the funniest movie of 2019, and I love all the performances in it, especially Taika and Sam Rockwell. Jojo Rabbit is another 9 out of 10 for me. Then I watched a new horror movie on Netflix, Incantation. The only reason I even watched this is because there are so many people on TikTok touting it as the scariest movie of all time. To put it lightly, this movie is not scary at all, and it's just really bad. Found footage horror has the potential to be scary, but it isn't used very well at all here, and it doesn't help that the plot is impossible to follow. There are like 3 separate timelines going on at the same time, but it isn't exactly obvious when it's switching, so it's just really confusing. Oh, and if the movie wasn't already bad enough, you can switch it to the dubbed version to make it sound absolutely terrible. I would not recommend this movie at all, 2 out of 10. After watching one of the worst movies of the year, I followed it up with one of my absolute favorites so far, RRR. For those of you that don't know, RRR is a 3-hour-long Indian blockbuster, and while that might immediately turn some of you away after hearing it, I promise you it is one of the most insane films I've ever seen. Calling this movie a spectacle would be an understatement because it is about as grand as you can possibly get. There are giant action sequences putting our main characters on the same level as superheroes where they're jumping off exploding bridges, fighting wild animals, and taking on entire armies with a bow and arrow in their bare hands. Then you have the extravagant dance sequences and songs, which should definitely be in every blockbuster from now on. RRR is an expertly written blockbuster with some great performances and the perfect mix of action and emotion. Like I said before, this is one of my favorites of the year so far, and you should absolutely check it out if you haven't yet. I promise it's worth it. I'm going to give RRR a 9 out of 10. Then I watched Ambulance, or Ambulance, or however the hell you say it. This is pretty much exactly what you expect from a Michael Bay movie, but for once it actually worked for me. I'm not a fan of his directorial style, but it actually worked really well for how ridiculous this movie is. Every once in a while, it's good to watch a movie that is just fun for the sake of fun, and that's exactly what this is. I probably would have liked it even more seeing it in the theater, but from my experience, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Next, I watched Prey on Hulu. The only other Predator movie I've seen besides this one is the first one, so obviously I don't have much of a connection to the franchise, but that just goes to show how well this movie stands on its own. It's a shame that this didn't get a theater release because it could have done really well. Having a monster movie set hundreds of years ago is a great idea, and it's surprising that it took this long for someone to do it. If they want to make more Predator movies, they should just keep throwing them in different time periods and put the same level of care into it that they did with this one, and they'll probably turn out great. The action is very well choreographed, and it's really unique because of the different weapons that they're using in the time period. It's an entertaining movie that doesn't overstay its welcome, and I had a great time watching it. 8 out of 10. Next, I finally got to the theater to see Nope, and oh boy was it worth the wait. Even though I'm not a big fan of Us, this was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Jordan Peele brings such a different voice and perspective to the film industry, making his films both highly entertaining and layered with social relevance. Of his 3 movies so far, Nope is actually my favorite. I know most people still prefer Get Out, but Nope really just hit all the right buttons for me. It's the perfect balance between what Peele went for in Us and Get Out. Get Out is super exciting, but with a very straightforward message, while Us gets completely tangled up in its themes, leaving it feeling vague and confusing. Nope manages to be one of the most exciting and thrilling movies of the year while tackling some complicated themes at the same time. Peele flips conventions of horror, alien, and thriller movies on their head to really get his point across and redefine what the genre can be. As the mystery of the story shifts, it uses new horror techniques to make you uneasy in different ways. It might not be the scariest movie ever made, but it's not trying to be, and it kept me on the edge of my seat for the entire time. The performances are great all around. Daniel Kaluuya continues to prove he is one of the best actors working today, and Keke Palmer steals the show with every scene she's in. I don't want to say too much else about Nope in case any of you haven't seen it, because it is best to go in blind. I'm going to give Nope a 9 out of 10, and if you get the chance, see Nope as soon as you can while it's still in theaters. Then I saw Not Okay on Hulu. This movie was nearly impossible to sit through. My girlfriend and I had to take a break in the middle of it just so that we could make it through the whole thing. It has one of the most unlikable protagonists ever. It's like Dear Evan Hansen on steroids. It is impossible to feel bad for this girl and so hard to watch her when she's just so rude, oblivious, and emotionless. I spent the whole movie praying for her downfall, and that is the only thing that helped me sit through it. But by the end it still wasn't enough because there is just no amount of karma that could make up for the psychological trauma this movie put me through. I would not recommend anyone watch this movie unless you truly want to test your will or if you're trying to torture someone. This isn't really a bad or poorly made movie, but I really hated it, so I'll give it a 2 out of 10. Then I saw Marcel The Shell with Shoes On. I nearly missed out on seeing this in theaters, but I'm very glad I didn't because it was fantastic. This movie is just downright adorable, and it put a smile on my face the entire time. It's funny, charming, and sweet, but it also has some heartbreaking moments. It gives the audience a chance to question what it means to have a family and how to accept your place in the world while watching a little shell with one googly eye. The ending is so cute and heartwarming, and I really loved it. It's a perfect movie to watch with your loved ones, even though it probably won't be showing anymore by the time this video comes out. I would recommend seeing it as soon as possible. Marcel The Shell is another 9 out of 10 for me. Then I finished the final season of Better Call Saul. I'm going to be making a dedicated video about this show, but if you know me at all, you probably have a good idea how I feel about it. Next I watched the newest Pixar movie, Lightyear. I actually had to double check if this really was a Pixar movie because it is so bland that any studio could have churned this out. Pixar obviously has an outstanding track record, so it is quite baffling to me that an idea this stupid got greenlit. Lightyear is a blatant cash grab without any heart, and it's honestly quite offensive to me. I will admit that some parts of the story are pretty creative, but everything else is just so predictable and boring. The reveal at the end is incredibly stupid, and it really just doesn't make any sense. Plus, it completely ruins this classic Star Wars gag between Buzz and Zurg in Toy Story 2. It doesn't even look that good either. We've gotten some great animated movies in recent years with unique animation styles and talented voice work, which makes Lightyear feel especially lame in comparison. It's obviously not completely worthless, but I'm against everything Lightyear stands for, 4 out of 10. Next I watched the Netflix series Heartstopper. My girlfriend and my sister have been recommending this to me for months now, and I'm so glad I finally got around to it. It feels like a story about young people that is actually written from the perspective of young people. Usually a lot of stuff like this feels like it's written by people who were at one point in their life children, but obviously aren't any longer. In other words, they're old as hell and it shows. This show is very mature about the way it explores sexuality and relationships, and the characters are all written very well to make them feel like real people. Since this is based on a graphic novel, there are these little 2D flourishes that occasionally accentuate the characters' emotions, which I really love. This show is just really cute and really well written, and if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. I'll rate Heartstopper at a 9 out of 10. Then I watched Bullet Train. This trailer has been playing in front of basically every single movie I've seen in the last few months, which didn't help because I basically saw the whole movie before seeing the movie. Also, a lot of the best jokes were in the trailer, which for a movie so heavily reliant on its comedy is not a good thing. I think there's a really entertaining and well-written movie inside of Bullet Train, but it's surrounded with so much filler it ends up being a lot less enjoyable than it could be. I was enjoying myself for the majority of the movie though. The action is fun and well choreographed, the plot is creative with the way the characters interact and eventually converge, but it is way longer than it needs to be. By the time I was about halfway into the third act, I was really hoping for it to be over. As much as I like the characters and the story, I don't know if I could ever see myself revisiting this because of how much a chore it was to get through at the end. But I'm still going to give Bullet Train a 6 out of 10. Then I rewatched Ferris Bueller's Day Off. My girlfriend had never seen it before, so I'm glad we got to watch it together. This movie is pretty much perfect in my opinion, and I think everyone kind of knows that by now, so I'm just going to give it a 10 out of 10 and move on. Next, I finished Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal on HBO. I'm planning on making a dedicated video about this soon, so I'm not going to say anything about it here other than that I loved it and I rated it a 9 out of 10. Then I watched Miss Congeniality. This is one of the most cliched-filled comedies I've ever seen, but it definitely has its moments. It's always a good reminder that someone taking their glasses and changing their clothes immediately makes them look like a beauty queen, because that is definitely how it works in the real world. I probably would have liked this more if the main love interest wasn't such a sleazeball, but I did enjoy Michael Caine's character quite a bit. It got a few laughs out of me, and that's about all you can ask for from a comedy sometimes. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Then I watched the new Peacock original horror movie, They/Them. First of all, very little expectations going into this movie, other than that I love the title and I think the concept was perfect for a stupid, ridiculous horror movie. I was hoping for a movie that was hilariously bad that I would have a fun time laughing at. But it ended up being so much worse than I was expecting because it wasn't bad in an entertaining way, it was bad in the most boring way possible. For a movie where the entire premise is someone going around murdering people, there was a serious lack of people being murdered. There's a kill in the very first scene, one like halfway through the movie, and then all the rest are at the very end. It really shouldn't be that hard to make a horror movie like this not boring. Literally all you have to do is kill people. Most of They/Them is just a bunch of kids bonding and being emotionally traumatized by Kevin Bacon, which is a lot less interesting than it sounds. The only part of this movie that was even slightly entertaining was the part where that one guy was having his nipples electrocuted while they showed him stock photos of hot dudes with abs. That is what I mean when I'm saying so bad it's good. That is what this whole movie should have been. The ending is really stupid too, and even though it's clearly trying to end with a positive message about accepting yourself, it really falls on its face in every possible way. They/Them is going to be my first 1 out of 10 for the entire year. Then lastly, I finished the month by going to see Nope again. It's still amazing, still a 9 out of 10, and it's even better on rewatch. From now on, I also wanted to start doing a rating for the month as a whole with an average of everything I watched. So my rating for August is a 7.2. So that's everything I watched this month. Let me know what you thought about everything I saw and if there's anything you think I missed that I should watch. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and check out my channel for more content like this. Other than that, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.